Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the RemiX Morning Show, everybody.
Good morning. Through the hard way. What's happening?
True.
He made it. Look who came sliding in.
I just want to say this in honor of my man Jared Ball. When I first started the Black Panther Party, shout out to Bobby Seale. That's my Bobby Seale impersonation. Bobby's bugging. Anyway.
It was just the two of us.
He said that?
It was,
that's every
time he speaks.
Yeah.
And we were just talking about how at first it was just going to be, we thought it was just going to be the two of us, and we were talking about I had said we were Bobby and Huey.
Yeah.
And we were talking about who, because I was like, who's hosting? It was like, well, it's just the two of us.
Yeah, so I'm like bumping. I'm the dark one. I guess I got to be Bobby. So
How'd y'all think I'm not going to show though? Come on, you know how I do that. I do.
Hey,
I'm
man,
always right in the nick of time.
Hey, you right, man. You do be in the nigga time. Get it, nigga time. Anyway, welcome to the RemiX Morning Show, where you can catch two yellow fellas and Kalonji. And we'll be doing what we do.
That's a hot show. That's a hot show right there.
I know.
Two yellow fellas and Kalonji.
Yeah.
That should be the new name of a podcast. We could do that as a new podcast name.
We just break off. Like if nothing works and everything else just falls apart. You know what I mean? We run out of episodes and shows.
No, when BPM and the remix blow up, we'll break off like Belle Biv DeVoe.
Okay, word.
True.
Okay.
I like
now,
that.
hold on.
I like that thinking.
So you gonna be Belle or who you gonna be?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. You know, yeah, I guess so. No, well, I think I'm more.
I'll be sure. So yeah, y'all stay L and Al, and I think that'd be dope. L and Al. I'm telling y'all that. I mean, that's y'all, man. I'm saying it's only two letters too.
No.
Hey, but look,
you're so good at naming. It's so fantastic.
Yeah. In all seriousness, good morning to everybody out there checking this out, and happy African Liberation Day to everybody.
ALD. Yes.
And we do have Dr. CBS and Layla Brown coming in later with a segment on African Liberation Day. Okay. And what else we got going on today?
Well, we might want to start off by introducing ourselves, because I'm almost guaranteeing that there are some.
We already did. We L. Allen. We did.
Oh, L. Allen Kalonji.
L. Allen Kalonji.
I'm sorry. Y'all almost
the high yellow. The two high. What was it? The high yellows and Kalonji. I can't remember already.
Exactly.
So, yeah, we already did all of that.
Yeah, two beige and a brown.
Beige and a brown.
No doubt, man. It's a good day. Today's Monday.
Calm Leash K9 Training. Good morning and welcome.
Welcome, Calm Leash K9 Training.
Hey, you know what else? You know what you get to do, Calm Leash? You get to see the full run of what we're going to show an excerpt of later on today. The Black Liberation Army Soldier Story Roundtable. Now that you're a member, you can go check that out later after this, of course, and see the whole thing. We are going to show an excerpt later this morning, which folks don't want to miss, because and if you already saw it, you want to see it again. So
yeah, definitely. For me and for most of us on this screen, it was like sitting in the living room with these dudes on a regular day, minus the cursing and all of that type stuff.
It was definitely some old people moments.
Yeah. The canes and all that.
The canes and the bodily adjustments, and all that kind of stuff. Cigarettes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But to see blood sitting there smoking a cigarette on the porch, man, I'm telling you, is priceless.
Classic. Man, listen, I went to this. We was invited to Minister Farrakhan was speaking out here one time, right? So we got these invitations from the local mosque. So we get there. So I'm with Blood and Daruba. So we get to the joint, and the FOI like, how you brothers doing? Like, we good. And they got their attitudes and whatnot. You know what I mean? So we get there and they go to search, and they go, hold on, man, what's going on here? They like, well, brother, we got to search you for your own safety. He's like, we already safe. So, needless to say, we didn't walk in. It was like we got to the door and turned around, and folks like, "Oh, brothers, come back." Said, "Blood, like, man, ain't nobody got time for this shit." I'm like, man, these cats, man.
They wouldn't even submit to a search to go inside the mosque.
Dude, listen, man. And I mean, I already told him. I said, "No, we good. We strapped." You know what I'm saying? You need to waste your pats and whatnot. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, why waste energy? So no, can't go in. Okay, cool.
So wait a second, y'all went to the mosque.
Well, it wasn't.
Thinking y'all was gonna get in the mosque.
Nah, it wasn't the mosque. It was a big church on that
Farrakhan was speaking at.
Yeah,
and y'all thought, and y'all.
I didn't think it. Look,
because
I knew
they decided to
listen. I knew, but we was rolling with the Ruba.
And he's not leaving shit in the car. He's like, I'm not leaving shit in the car.
I'm not gonna say he had anything on him. I'm just saying he wasn't.
You already did, B.
Oh, did I? It's early in the morning. But anyway, I mean, who cares about that? But the reality is, it's like one thing I love about these OGs, the brothers and the sisters, is that you know, they serve their purpose, man, and they don't give a fuck. And I appreciate the fact that they actually are against the state and they don't compromise their position like so many other folks do. You know what I mean? You accept the concessions, but you don't compromise your position. And that's very important. It's cool to play by the rules and all that type stuff. But, you know, I mean, these cats to me are just as important as any other leader from any other organization that exists today, period.
Yeah,
anyway.
Easily.
Like veterans, man. They're like, it's like, you know, white folks celebrate their veterans from World War II.
Absolutely.
And they build their monuments and they big them up and they give them all the benefits that they can, relatively speaking. Not everybody. Yeah. I sure don't do it on everybody, but I was like, that's the stuff that we need to be doing and honoring and remembering that. And you know, Jab's right. We're going to get into it when we go to that part of the show. But you're right. These are the cats who sacrifice. The cats who lost family, who lost friends, comrades, years of their lives to prison. And they did it all in the name of Black liberation. So there's no way that we should not be celebrating and uplifting and telling their stories. There's no sense to have a platform if we can't do that. So,
yeah. And, you know, not only that, man, it's like, you know, it's when you look at these brothers, and like I said, and these sisters, man, and you don't recognize them, it's almost like betrayal. You know what I mean? It's like we celebrate our OGs when they're ancestors. You know what I mean? I can imagine that's what happened with Malcolm and so many other people, because like Kwame Ture and so many other people, they were walking around for decades. You know what I mean? And cats might go see him if they speak somewhere, but it wasn't really a big deal. They weren't making sure they was taken care of. So indeed, you know, yeah, that's why we don't say they're former Panthers or whatever. We say that they're Black Panther veterans because of the fact that these are war heroes. You know what I'm saying? And they should be awarded as such, like you said. So, yeah.
Someone just mentioned, I'm sorry to jump in one last time. Somebody just mentioned the Patreon for the mutual aid for veterans of Black Panthers. I'm gonna put that in the comments in a few seconds. And yes, please, that is one way in which we're trying to collectively raise money for those sisters and brothers who were part of the Black Liberation Army, part of the Black Panther Party, even some of the folks associated with Black Power. We want to make sure that everything that we can do to support them. We released this last week on Malcolm's birthday. We're already in a very short period of time, got over 153 people who have decided to donate and or give mutual aid once a month. So please, whatever y'all can give, spread the word on social media. I'll drop that post in the comment section one more time for folks to try to donate or spread the word. Appreciate y'all.
No doubt. By the way, it's also the perfect counterbalance to what we saw this weekend with the protests of over the George Floyd killing and Chauvin's verdict and all of that, and Chauvin's trial, the commemoration of the anniversary of the killing and the uprisings. It's a nice counterbalance to that, these discussions and the focus of this work. So,
yeah. But definitely, man. You know, I'm glad to be here. And I'm still, again, not to go backwards, but I'm still high off of that BLA piece, man, because of the fact that,
no question.
Just looking on the screen and like I told those cats, man, no matter how many times we're around them or work with them or whatever, it's always that flashback in the middle of somewhere where it's like, oh shit, these are cats who were writing when they was locked up. You know what I'm saying? Oh shit, these are the cats whose stories that motivated us. You understand what I'm saying? So that's how I feel, man. But anyway, moving right along, man. It's going to be a great show. As you can see, the Lukemans aren't here today. I think they're getting ready for a celebration.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Baba Lukeman in the building. Baba Luke bad boy. You know what I'm saying? He going to be turning. I don't know how old he going to be turning. You know what I mean? But don't you worry about it. You know what I mean? He going to be here. That's the deal.
So in other words, they haven't gotten out of bed yet? Was that what's going on?
Oh, what you trying to say, brother?
I was trying to help, you know.
Sound like a pun.
If
Shout
Jackie
out to David
there,
Silberg, little brother.
Jackie was there, she would say something like that. So I just wanted to get one in.
She would definitely say something like that. You say it like she gone, Jackie, Jackie. He was a friend of mine. Anyway.
Oh, everybody hit the brakes on this.
Yeah,
we're going way off the rails.
Hey man, for those of you who first time checking us out, I know y'all like, man, what the hell is going on? You know, I want to shout out the cat who sent me this chain phone message the other day, right? You know how they put you on these little phone lists and they have like 100 people that they text and shit to, and you don't know, but maybe one of them. So I decided, I'm like, these cats been texting me for days and whatnot, including me in their texts that don't make sense. So I decided that I'm sending them back the RemiX Morning Show link. Some cat decided to text me back, talk about, this is garbage. We don't have time for this nonsense. We got to get ready for revolution. Y'all need to be putting in some work. I said, oh, well, please show me the work that you've done to outwork any of us on the show. I never got a text back. So as a reminder, I text them later on, still waiting. Like, don't be talking that bullshit. It's the RemiX Morning Show, and entertainment and education go hand in hand here in America. So,
well, he must be one of the two people that have hit the thumbs down on the show this morning. And we only have over 100 watching, and I think just barely over 50 likes. But we do have 2 thumbs down. So your boy, and I don't know if that's Roland Martin or Byron Allen that gave it to the other one. But you know, good morning to them too. We'll see if we can flip that by the end of the show.
No doubt. And shout out to the 50 remixes that hit the like button, because the remixes, they know what to do.
Or the mix-a-lots.
Anyway.
The mix-a-lots is growing on me a little bit.
Yeah, listen, man. Hey, I just, the mix-a-lot, we're not even going to get into that because folks got sensitive when we was talking about certain mix-a-lots. And I noticed it was the younger folks whose parents.
It was a younger. So who said that he was one of the best rappers? Did somebody say that on air? I can't remember.
Yeah, nobody.
Oh, my bad.
Nobody said that.
It was one of the comrades, one of the younger comrades, but she did say she listened. You know what I'm saying, because her mom was playing and her parents played the music or whatever, so on and so forth. So I'm like, okay, you know, some music you hear as a child or whatever, you might not realize it's felonious, but when you out there in the streets, it's a little different. You know what I mean? So Mix-a-Lot wouldn't have been battling nobody on my neighborhood. I tell you that right now.
Wow.
He wouldn't have made it in Brooklyn. He wouldn't have made it in Jersey. He wouldn't have made it in Philly.
Man, you talking all that trash in the safe confines of Georgia. Wait till you out. Wait till you out there in wherever he was. What was he in Washington somewhere? I thought it was Seattle or somewhere out there. Right?
Hey, I'm good in the hood of Seattle. Shout out to the folks in Seattle.
Let the ear doctor come in and tell you. Let the ear doctor come in and tell you where he's from.
No doubt. Shout out to the ear doctor. Where that weatherman at?
Straight out of Jersey, but we here in the ATL. But yo, don't sleep on that posse on Broadway. My posse on Broadway. The beat was hard. The lyrics and you know.
Yeah, bitch.
Word. But yo, let's get to the weather real quick and take a break. Let's do it like that.
The remix.
Remix is in effect.
Yeah. What's up, everybody? I am the Ear Doctor, and this is the RemiX Morning Show. Welcome to Black Power Media. Make sure y'all like and subscribe. Go to patreon.com, drop some change so we can keep this movement going. All right, so let's get into the weather. First, let's start off with the highs like we always do. let's start off in Jacksonville, Florida. Big up to Jacksonville. I got to go hit a beach or something. It's about that time. 91. They getting up to 91 degrees today. So that's big up to Jacksonville, Florida. Now let's take it to the west side, over to Compton, California. Compton, California going to reach a high of 79 degrees today. And then let's take it all the way to the other side of the world, to Edirne, Mongolia. They're going to reach a high of 56. I know I probably ain't say that word right, but that is what it is. You are tuned into the Remix Morning Show. Now, let's take it down to Puerto Williams, Chile. Puerto Williams. It sounds like a Puerto Rican and a black guy got together, and Puerto Williams, Chile. Now, Puerto Williams, Chile is chillier than a mug. Now, when I say chili, I'm not talking about just your regular chili. I'm talking about TLC chili. It is so chilly down there. It's a high of 34 degrees. And yes, I'm talking about Chili, the one in the middle that dated Usher, that also had a reality show looking for a man and sang a song called Scrubs while filing bankrupt. Yes, I'm talking that type of chili. But yo, that is our weather for today. Now, let's take it back over to the Remix Morning Crew, because you know how we do. All right. Yeah.
Hey, yo, ear doctor, how you gonna go at Chile and you live in Atlanta? Man, you know how that goes, man. What's wrong with you, man?
Hey, she's Chile, but she ain't Dr. Chile.
These puns and segues. I just rolling with it.
But you can't hate on the bankruptcy, man. They got by the industry, man.
Pebbles. Was it Pebbles?
Yeah, it was part Pebbles. They signed a deal with their record label, their management, and all of them was getting the money at once.
Yeah,
they singing about Scrubs and filing bankrupt.
Hey, Pebbles said, "This is Big Red Productions."
You know, sure did.
My office hours are from,
and hung somebody off a balcony.
Exactly. But Left Eye said, "Fuck it. I'm gonna be the official riot start of the week, and I'm gonna throw these motherfucking Molotovs up in the crib and make it do that." Shout out to Left Eye, R.I.P. Left Eye. You know what I mean?
Yo,
by the way, if you didn't get the reference to Big Red, you got a hole in your soul, like Albert King used to say.
That's right. One of the best movies ever. I'm out of here, y'all.
Absolutely. Shout out to the ear doctor. Yes, indeed.
Doctor.
Yeah. One love. Anyway, checking out the Remix Morning Show, where you can get all kinds of crazy shit before the first 15 minutes of the show. Guaranteed. Anyway, what's happening, man? We got some news coming around the world.
We do have some news, and of course, starting with the fact that my internet is janky again for some reason. I don't know, what that's all about, but
we'll check it while your janky internet is going.
But check it out, though. I'm saying, but check this out, though. It may be because we talk too much about these media folks, and we're not respecting the fact that MSNBC has hired its first Black woman president to run MSNBC. So everybody should get very excited that the news that they are ignoring already by tuning into our Remix Morning Show is going to be curated, propagated by a sister. And so the Kamala Harris of news, just got a promotion. So shout out to not the famous different Rashida Jones, but this Rashida Jones.
So let me ask you this. Is that the so Bill Cosby must have bought NBC finally. Ba-doom boom boom.
Ba-doom boom boom. Ba-doom doom doom. So shout out to diversity. I just thought that was shout out to a diversity, it's some
I mean I think that's just been what they've been doing for like the last 30 or 40 years. That's how they appease. But everybody gotta get their chance. Apparently, first it was dudes, now it's women, and our neighborhoods are all the better for it. So
there it is.
Can't lose with the shit they use. Anyway, man, I'm sorry to hear that. You know what I mean?
Go ahead, Kamaji. Take up the next one though. When we don't. My bad. I didn't mean to ut you off. If you wanted to comment farther, but go ahead and take up the next one.
Oh, the next story.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna make the next story simple. There was a situation in Marietta, Georgia, which is outside of Atlanta. There was a couple where they were having couples night, and they were playing board games, and their neighbor came over, nice black couples and everything, minding their own business. The nice white neighbor decides to come on over and says that he wanted to invite himself, so he just walks on in. And they tell him he have to leave. He looked high, whatever the case is, and it was couples only. So he said, okay, cool. And in 10 minutes, he came back and shot the whole crib up with like 100 rounds of bullets. You know what I mean? Laced it. I'm talking about, they showed the pictures and the video on the news, and they had, I mean, top to bottom. But luckily, it was just one person shot in the shoulder. Now the problem comes because of the fact that
you mean the problem hadn't come already?
I mean that's the beginning of the problem. But they call the police. The neighbors are like, he's on this neighborhood app. The neighbors are like, look, he's in the house right now, and the cops is like, which house? They like, he's in that house over there. Where's the house at? What's the door number? All this other stuff, as if, you know, giving them time to get off the joint. There was no name mentioned nor picture mentioned until folks began to post it on the neighbor app, and we found out that the young man name is Cody RemiX, and he is still on the run. Cody Dimmitt, excuse me. He's still on the run. They said he's been seen in the neighborhood. And I mean, you know, they asked, do they think it's a racially motivated shooting? Let me see. White guy comes with an assault rifle, shoots up a home with black folks in it. The police don't go to his home immediately to arrest him. They wait to get a search warrant or whatever. And he's still on the loose. I don't know. What does that sound like to you guys? Let me guess. If I go shoot up someone's home, do you think that I would get the same courtesy or what? The guy's 27 years old. They have all his information, and he's still loose. So be on the lookout for Cody Dimmitt if you are in the Atlanta area, because of the fact that he is armed and dangerous. Extremely.
So wait a minute. Are you saying? Did you say that at first the victims of the shooting were saying that he was in his house?
Yes, the neighbors were saying that he was actually in his house. They saw him in his home.
The neighbors were said they saw him in his home, but
right.
The response was so slow that he had time to get away.
He had time to do whatever he needed to do. At first, they didn't even report his name or his picture, but finally, they ended up doing it after pressure from this neighborhood app. So, you know, that's what's going on here in Georgia.
No, you can get away because, I mean, and when they catch him, they're going to take him to go get a burger first. They might take him to go see a movie, let him go home, kiss his mom, kiss his dad, you know what I mean? Maybe take him to Disney World, and then, you know, maybe they'll take him to jail or prison for a little bit and give him a slap on the wrist, because that's these folks are like, they're kin folks, so they're not going to do anything to they're just not going to treat that kind of stuff seriously on an everyday basis, right? So our people are always expendable, and their folks for the most part get that kind of pass. You know, right. I'm not shocked at all. Yeah.
What's crazy about it though, I mean, it's like, here it is. We're in this era of mass shootings. You know what I mean? And this clown is still allowed to walk around with an assault rifle. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm really confused because of the fact that it's like, okay, and where it happened wasn't far from the situation where they had the Asian murders out here a couple months back. You know, so it's like here in Georgia, for folks that are not familiar, I think that oftentimes we talk about Atlanta about being this black city, but they forget that we're in the state of Georgia, and the state of Georgia is a very racist colony. And you know, folks forget that. They talk about America. They talk about Philly. You forget Philly's in Pennsylvania. You understand what I'm saying? We forget that we're located in the United States. So I'm glad that he was a bad shooter. Two of the folks that were inside, one of the couples were actually ex-military. So they told everyone to get on the floor and all that type of stuff. But the way the gunshots were fired, I mean, they could have easily been hit on the ground as well because of the fact that he fired from the floor to the ceiling, literally, you know. But all because, quote unquote, he wasn't invited to come play Jegna. So anyway, this is the Remix Morning Show.
Yeah, wow, that's crazy. Well, look, I don't have a good segue to the next story. I was trying to come up with something. I don't have one. So let's just, full stop on that madness and switch over to a different form of madness. One of the things that I know I've been looking at for a long time, and one of the many prime reasons I'm very happy about what we're doing here with BPM and the Remix Morning Show, is that this story that came out in Fair, which is something I look at and I think should be part of people's media diet and a good source of criticism, fairness and accuracy in reporting. On May 21st, they reported this story: the new podcast oligopoly, Spotify and Liberty corner the market while Amazon and Apple plot their ascent. And by the way, I hope everybody saw. I'll just add this part to this story that Amazon just bought MGM Studios for, I think, 90 billion or 9 billion or 90 billion, one or the other. So Amazon with its $600 million contract with the CIA owns the Washington Post and now MGM, and is also one of the most dominant podcast platforms. And what it's showing is that just what I've been and others have been arguing for a long time, that new media technology does not change the relationship media have to society. In fact, historically, in one of my favorite books going back to the 50s on this, from Harold Innis, called The Bias of Communication, talks about and shows the history that going back to time immemorial, increases in media technology, even starting with the Gutenberg printing press, allows for a consolidation of power, as fewer are able to control and dominate whatever form of communication that we're talking about here. So when Forbes reported last year, or prophesized, that Amazon's 2020 purchase of podcast publisher Wondery put the industry on a path to a crossroads, they said it could change podcasting's future. And what this article is saying is that future has arrived. Podcasting has changed. So the new ecosystem, dominated by Spotify, with big shows like Joe Rogan and others, Kim Kardashian, West, and Michelle Obama, are dominating all that has been. What this new media technology has allowed to happen is for those in power and those already dominating other media spaces to further infuse themselves in what should be and what were thought to be originally alternative outlets and alternative spaces where people could go to get away from the nonsense that we're forced to consume in commercial media spaces. So even as we look at the same thing, we mentioned this the other day in terms of streaming services like Netflix, the Washington Post is even forced to acknowledge that, as they say here, my guess, and I'm hardly alone, is that Spotify wants to become to podcasts what YouTube is for video, simply the default platform for both listeners and creators. And that should worry people, because as we've also covered here, YouTube has gone from what I was just saying, something that what they were saying in the mid 2000s was a great place for DIY creators through its partnership program, has become something else where its ever-changing algorithm has burned out creators and decimated their audiences, and where the CEO of YouTube has said, as we also discussed here, officially come out and said that they're going to throttle so-called alternative sources in favor of dominant media and traditional media sources. So as YouTube becomes the replicant of commercial media, so will Spotify and Liberty look to become the dominant alternative or so-called alternative in podcasting and in what will replace radio ultimately. So anyway, we should just something to be aware of as we look to build our own platform and our own alternative, that we are in an environment where media play a very political function to colonize and capture, and that's what it's here to do. So just wanted to bring that up a little bit there.
No doubt.
No, and I would, it's funny because what I thought about doing that story was just the whole, I went back to when you and David D had the discussion around hip hop actually, and the young creators on the street, folks making their music, and and again, this could be in hip hop, this could be in technology, this could be any place. Like you have innovators, sometimes folks who create things and do things, but even when they think they're going to be able to control what they create, right? Or they're so happy because they got something out there, these larger corporations are there to swallow that up. And so I don't, this is not too much of a segue into that, but so sometimes I wonder even if the history of hip hop could have been different, because at some point it felt like corporations were, once they saw that there was money to be made or that there was a message to be controlled and shifted, they immediately pounce. And I think that's the same thing that happens in technology, the same thing that happens obviously in these media platforms. The idea is that they're going to pounce and control, and they throw money at people who've never seen that kind of money before. And what do? They give up their platforms, they give up their voices, they give up their masters, right? They give up all that stuff because they're getting for the first time in their lives a small piece of the pie. But these larger outlets are looking around control, and they're looking about making sure that nothing sort of stops them from being ultimately in control again of the message and the technology and the ways in which those messages are delivered. So
that's right.
And that's one of the things we talked about, even with if we take it back to the golden era of hip hop. When we talk about, just the other day, we was talking about Public Enemy and all, and Poor Righteous Teachers and a number of these other groups. It's like we had the discussion around the whole Malcolm movie, right? And sometimes we overlook the fact that when you look at Public Enemy was signed to Def Jam. Def Jam was distributed through Columbia, and Columbia was a subsidiary of Sony. You know what I mean? So it was still that control. It was still the same sponsorship that sponsored the Malcolm movie. Even some of our greatest artists had to go through that in order to get that popularity, but they were able to put a stop to it and put the brakes on it because of the fact that at the end of the day, they still had that control. But a fun tidbit, a side note to add to that, when we talk about Russell Simmons, folks don't know that his father, Floyd Simmons, who was a preacher, was actually a comrade of Baba Herman Ferguson. They actually did a lot of community work out in Queens, New York. So when Herman Ferguson transitioned, Danny, Russell and Run's brother, who's an artist, he actually, I reached out to him and told him that Baba Herman had transitioned, and he said he would let the family know because they knew him. But that shows you how closely connected so many of these artists are to movement. So it's not like oftentimes people think that, they're so far removed and they don't know what's going on, so on and so forth. Herman Ferguson and their father were actually good friends. So they knew what time it was on the organizing tip. So that's why when we say that we should roll up on some of these folks and remind them of their roots, that's what we're talking about. We're not just talking about, just randomly, just picking on artists or whatever.
Well, if you have the money and the access to roll up on Russell wherever he's hiding out now, getting away from these rape charges, more power to you. He's going to be hard to find at the moment. But no, I look, I fully, you all raised very good points, and this is exactly what the colonial apparatus is meant to do. It's meant to survey the situation and wait for, but even going back from the very beginning, I mean, even the story of even Sylvia Robinson creating the Sugar Hill Gang and concocting this whole thing for her own corporate commercial purposes. She didn't care about hip hop. She didn't care about the culture or the Black community even. She was a very class focused businesswoman. I think we have, this is sort of my point that in terms of the hip hop argument, I think we have to go back and really look at the whole history here, that the whole thing has been co-opted from jump. And only in certain moments, at certain accidental pockets, have there been these resistance takeovers or responses that many of us have been trying to exploit for a long time. But anyway, this is just the nature of the threat. Shout out to Raz Kaz and whatever political location he might be in at this moment. But anyway,
we got to get Raz Kaz on, man. I actually interviewed him some years ago.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I mean that one particular song was it.
It was it, and even where it made its mistakes historically, it was genius in what it was, in how it laid out it laid it out. I mean, it was, so I mean, shout out to the nature of the threat is classic material.
He was sort of like the RZA with that, you know what I'm saying? The information wasn't always accurate. You know what I mean? However,
howsoever,
it sparked interest in certain folks. They thought they were deep. They was like, oh shit, yeah, what does this mean? You know what I mean?
But to tell a coherent, long form story like that, that rhymed well, and flowed well, that to me, I imperfections, we can deal with that anyway. Yeah.
And I just wanted to make one last. I just want to go back to the technology thing really quick. I'm sorry, because it just also just reminded me. It's like, usually when you look at revolutionary movements, what they do is they take over technologies, right? They have to bash in a radio station and take it over. Mm-hmm. They're not usually working with the technology at first, and so even when we see things like our favorite hip hop artists who laid out a lot of like good rap and things that we consider radical and revolutionary, I think that's what we have to understand too about how the sort of that octopus arm works, is that they can endure some radical messages as long as they feel like they can control it, right? As long as they think it's not going to lead to actual radical activity, there's ways in which they can take, and have taken obviously culture and radical messages and made them safe in some ways for public consumption. And I think that's something too that capitalism through these large media giants has become smarter than what they were before in terms of co-opting these messages, giving people something to believe, like, even in a sense, Tupac in a sense, right? But I know people, we got radicalized off of some of this stuff, but also becomes, it's the listening and not the acting, which takes the place of the work, right? It's the I got this, I know this information, I got this knowledge, I can debate about Tupac and all that kind of stuff, or Public Enemy, whoever it is, but are you involved in organizational apparatuses? And usually the answer is no, but they can quote every Tupac lyric for you,
Let me just say one quick more piece more on this, please. There's this communication scholar I used to read all the time, Carl Deutsch, who used to make this point that I think was really important, that played out with hip hop and plays out with this media technology. And his point was that he said that even when the so-called third world was decolonizing in the 50s and 60s, the first world leaders were reconvening what they were calling supranational entities and functions and organizations and communicative abilities. So they were saying, fine, you can have your little flags and independences. And in this context, you can have your rap music and you can get you can get your PEs and the dead prez here or there. Somebody might drop something here or there, but we are going to create an apparatus that is supra that. So while you're doing that, we're building this podcast oligopoly. We're building this YouTube monopoly. We're building this so that by the time you turn around and catch up to that, we've already consumed you or subsumed you within something equally dangerous and managed. And it's hard to keep up with when we're not doing the kind of organizing and forming of organizations that I think particularly the two of you have been engaged in for a long time. So, and that we're trying to support here as a channel. So anyway,
so for the viewers, this is yet another reason to support what it is we're doing, because we already know it's coming down the pike. We don't want to get boxed out. You know what I mean? We don't have those type of funds. We don't have those type of resources. But
welcome, Dawn. Thank you. Yeah.
And shout out to Dawn Gibson. Dawn Gibson is an organizer. We worked together on the Troy Davis case. She's a damn good organizer. She's a serious comrade out there. Glad to see you came on board, Dawn. We appreciate the support. We know you've been supporting for a while, so definitely shout out to Dawn Gibson.
Right.
But yeah, so we need more Dawn Gibsons. That's my point. We need more folks to sign on and say, listen, we want to turn this into a communication force, because if not, we will get boxed out, and they'll find some cats that look just like us, but you'll tell that they're not us at all. They'll water them down, and I can start naming names.
They won't be as pretty though.
Yeah, I mean,
let's be clear. Let's be clear.
No, I mean, anyway, Jared couldn't do that, but anyway, and we saw that happen with Public Enemy. We talked about the hip hop thing.
Yeah,
we saw it with Professor Griff, who was a guest on the remix. You know what I mean? How when he started talking a little too much into the realities of things, then it was a get up out of here type program. So anyway, moving right along. What else we got rocking, man?
Well, I got it. Let me, even yesterday I did, during my show, I did a discussion of some latest buying power mythology, and I can't even keep up with it because before I even got off the air, they were pumping out some more. So I thought I would just share this one real quick. 20 brands that are actually making progress on their commitments to serving the Black community. This is oh so super important because again, as we approach the 1 year since the death of George Floyd, and I love how they do this all the time. Consumers will be watching and waiting to see what progress brands have made on their racial equity commitments, because that's what we've been struggling for, y'all. Like since George Floyd and all these police killings, our main concern has been, what will our brands do in response? Whatever will they do? So of course, what they do is what we keep talking about. They commit to spending more with Black-owned businesses and investing in the STEM sections of HBCUs, and then of course claiming erroneously that one of the most important commitments brands can make is ensuring their products and services are authentically serving the Black community. Because according to a Nielsen report, Black buying power was $1.3 trillion in 2018. Brands must understand that diversity is not a trend or blah, 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 blah. So what they're really just trying to do is find a way to, again, co-opt the moment and figure out a way to rebrand Black suffering and more importantly, from their perspective, Black revolution as supporting Black-owned businesses and the STEM components of HBCUs, that is science, technology, engineering, and math, because they want to stay away from the liberal arts where people might learn radical theories and ideas that might change the world. And then of course we won't do it here today, but if you click through, what you'll find in all of this is that Nielsen quotes the Selig Center, which if you ever read that report, which you don't have to because you can see it all in my book for free, that they have no real reason or answer for coming up with this claim that Black people have $1.3 trillion buying power. So it's all marketing and branding, in this case to not just sell products, but to rebrand revolution in Black radical politics. And it's just.
So if I buy some Ciroc,
hey,
I've liberated my people, basically.
Clearly. I mean, because that's what they're saying. Like if they put, and more to the point, if they put a little George Floyd rest in peace on the Ciroc bottle, like you get a little black patch, like the George Floyd special edition liquor, like that's really what they're
little really Black Lives Matter.
Absolutely.
Every Ciroc,
that's it.
You know what I'm saying?
When you pop Black edition
bottle.
Shout out to Samaria Rice for slamming this bullshit. Anyway,
and shout out to Dr. Joy James for the June 12th Accountability Summit that she has put together that we'll be hosting here, because
I can't wait for that.
Yeah. Me either, man, because there needs to be some minimum accountability.
That's going to be heavy right there, man.
We should try to see if we can get her on earlier.
We are. Believe me, working on it. It's as soon as she is going to come on before the event to talk about it. We just haven't got the exact date and time yet. So people just have to just keep watching.
Sit tight.
Just
we'll Ciroc and sit tight.
Right.
No Ciroc on this clock. Anyway, shout out to KD. Is that KD from around the way? You know what I mean? The new member, RemiX Morning Show.
Right on.
Black Power Media. We appreciate that support.
Very much so.
I mean? Definitely stay on point. We appreciate you all the remixers out there. I just got to keep shouting the remixers out because they just so special. You know what I mean?
And the mix a lot.
Somebody just mentioned, you know what? Even though a couple of folks just mentioned How I'm Gonna Make a Black Nation Rise, which was Brother D.
That's
from
right.
New York Days, which is officially the first radical hip hop song on wax. You know
That's right.
So, he was a political organizer, is to this day a political organizer, and constantly talking about political education and how that's what we need as opposed to just action for no reason whatsoever. So shout out to Brother D. You know what I mean?
Hold on, pause. Shout out to Brother D. We got shout Nikki Scott out. Nikki Scott just dropped. She's a remixer. She just dropped two bills on us real quick. Let us know that.
Right on, Nikki. Appreciate you. That she must be a mix-a-lot.
She gotta be a remixer.
I think I'm gonna dig it down with the mix-a-lot.
Hey, you drop that on. She can name. She can
name what the chat is.
We see the Nickies. We the Nickies out here.
These two sellouts right here, boy. Y'all sell us out really $200. Y'all colder than the white man.
Send her some Ciroc.
Y'all definitely colder than a white man. You gonna send Nikki some Ciroc?
I'm gonna send her some Ciroc with a Black Lives Matter label on it. I appreciate it.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man, you colder than the white man, brother. But anyway, definitely she's a remixer, we're sure. You know what I mean? Because that's what the remixers do. You know, the mix-a-lots, I don't know about them. But anyway, what else we got popping today, man?
Go ahead, man. No, go ahead.
Now I was just gonna say your man Dominique Wilkins here in Atlanta. You know what I mean?
The human highlight film.
Huh?
The human highlight film.
Yes, this brother right here, who is a NBA Hall of Famer, was denied access to a restaurant, Le Bilboquet in Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? Now that name don't sound like his ass should have been going there anyway. That's just me. But according to him, he said they were racist. You know what I mean? He said they denied him access. Now they said they have a dress code. He said they looked him up and down like like nigga. You're like, I'm Dominique. I don't give a damn who you are. You can be a dominatrix. You come up in this mug, wow. you guys be a certain complexion the whole nine. So anyway, so he took to IG and Twitter and said don't rock with him. I went to their IG page and immediately they had a post up talking about we have a dress code, whoop, whoop, boom, boom, boom. But after that pressure, that particular post was taken down and it was changed to, sorry, Mr. Wilkins, we didn't know it was you. Lord have mercy, blah, blah, blah. That's what it translated to. But anyway, so, you know, he said that he had a very expensive, in his words, casual outfit on, and he couldn't understand why he was turned away. Now, you got to either be a total new jack to not recognize Dominique Wilkins. He looked the same, but with a little bit of gray hair. You know what I mean?
In Atlanta, man.
Yeah, especially, I mean, he's like the mayor. You know what I'm saying? It's like certain people you really can't deny access. You know what I mean? And Dominique is one of those people, especially when it comes to basketball or sports, period. He's probably arguably one of the most popular athletes to come up out of Atlanta. You know, so you know, it was
I mean, who would be more popular? Michael Vick? Who else? I mean,
that's what I'm saying. I mean, outside of Michael Vick,
we're talking a couple of generations ago.
It's not that long.
Cool.
He's a Hall of Famer, though.
Y'all need to get up off that 50-year-old shit right now.
Nah, man.
Nobody know Dominique. People don't know Dominique like that no more. This is not about the restaurant. So one, let me just
in Atlanta, Kamau
bugging. You see, you don't get out in Atlanta.
Patrick Ewing, I don't remember no
Patrick Ewing.
Man, but before we go down this rabbit hole of how famous Dominique is and or should be in terms of his recognition, so just one tidbit around sort of like the middle class issues around race is that they can't get into restaurants. So Dominique, great basketball player, but I'm not all that concerned that he can't get into the restaurant.
I'm not concerned either.
I'm saying no. I'm just saying in general. Like I'm just saying that's how But that's what gets the media, right? Too, is the fact that he can't have access. And then we're all supposed to feel bad or sorry or sympathetic because he can't go to spend his $4,000 for a chicken meal or something like that. Whatever.
This is the most important story in Black America since
today.
Since I can't imagine since Oprah got denied access to that diamond store in England. This is major right here. I don't know what you talk about.
Hey, listen,
Kalonji, get your man.
Remember no Dominique?
I thought it was
like 30 years ago.
Now that part you are tripping on. No.
Dominique is a Hall of Famer.
He was Jordan light. He was Jordan without the championships. Come on now.
Listen, man. Yo, listen. You
spoken like a real New Yorker living in Georgia.
If you say Atlanta Hawks and you say basketball,
who says Atlanta Hawks? Who says that?
Oh my!
First of all, who says that?
Oh wow! Wow!
This is Atlanta Hawks and basketball in the same sentence. I don't understand.
We had to vote him off the Renegade Coaching Podcast because of the fact.
Listen, the only other story. Check out. I'm gonna do this. We run out of time, so let me just say this because the only other story I was gonna bring up this morning is going to be similar to what Kamau is going to come back and have to do after Atlanta checks him, like is the Israeli lobby checked Bernie Sanders and all these major actors who are backing up on their criticism of Israel. So once the Atlanta lobby and the Dominique lobby checks Kamau, check how he come back tomorrow and talk about, I think we need to be a little more easy on our criticism of brother Dominique. We need to ease. Because
I've seen it happen before. We have another podcast called Renegade Culture. Well, brother, you think we should say that? Yeah, I think we should.
You must be dreaming.
I ain't gonna say that. I wasn't gonna tell y'all about when Killer Mike had Kamau up against the door. Yeah, I heard the podcast. Yeah, I really like all your music.
You must be dreaming. That's your boy. That's your boy.
All that shit he talking about Renegade Culture.
Tapping me under the table. Don't criticize me. Don't criticize him on the air. Don't criticize him on the air.
Who said that, Jared?
That's you, B. That's you.
Yeah.
And he had Kamau pinned up in the joint. I said, it's cool, brother. You know what I'm saying? He with me.
He's like, I get calls from him. I don't want him to lose my number. Don't criticize him on the air.
Listen. Anytime Kamau got to go to the hood, yo, Kalonji, what you doing Tuesday?
For you?
I messaged you, man. But anyway,
your boy took down his thumbs down, so we only got one left.
That was Dominique. He good.
That's Dominique.
Dominique was like, I need you to show me some respect, Kamau.
I know Dominique about to do a video. He about to do a video in the morning show where he gonna call.
He's gonna be in the truck,
bowl of cereal, being like, "You niggas call me out. You light skin."
He gonna be in the truck next to Kwame Brown, talk about these niggas here, these light skin Becky's with the no hair.
Dude, exactly. I'm gonna be right with him. I'm gonna be like, yo, he out of line, man.
But Dominique, I'm defending you, Dominique. The human highlight film, man. I remember all them dunk contests. I remember all that. He was the last one to beat Jordan.
I know. How many rings?
Say it one more time. I don't think he heard him. Say it again.
He was the last one to beat Jordan in a dunk contest.
That's all I wanted to know.
Oh my God! I mean, that's the cap of the career. He beat Jordan in the dunk contest. My bad. How many rings he had? What was those rings?
Man, listen. Let's take it to the air, doctor.
How many rings did Ewing get? The man you remember.
Exactly.
A lot closer, though. A lot closer.
How many rings did Starks get?
Jordan is wearing Starks and Ewing's rings. Jordan is like, here are your rings, Knicks.
Let's go to the air, doctor.
Wait. You heard what Biggie said about Starks? All right, we out of here.
Y'all know.
The disrespect from Kamau. I mean, the human highlight. The guy that got a statue in front of the building that he put. Come on, man.
A statue for what? For dunking?
Yeah, pretty much.
You gonna dunk your ass when he catch you walking down Peach
Street. So if that's the case, Vince Carter should have like 12 statues.
Hey, and he got robbed in that dunk contest against Jordan. I'm just saying.
They did romp on him.
They did.
Oh yeah. No,
anyway, let's get into some sports since we're talking about it, man. Come on.
All right.
Let's do it. Oh my God.
RemiX Morning Show.
What's good, everybody? This is the RemiX Morning Show. Forgive my co-host Kamau there, for he does not know what he's talking about. Anyway, we are going to talk about some sports. And since we're talking about basketball, let's get into it. Right now, we got the play-ins. That's still kind of crazy to say that. But yeah, we're going to just call it the playoffs. So for right now, we're talking about NBA playoffs. The standings right now, we got Milwaukee 2 games over the Heat. I could see that happening because Milwaukee need to do something with who they got on their team. Big up to Nuggets and the Trailblazers. They are tied. Each one has won a game. That should be something. I would like to see Carmelo finally do. Well, he ain't gonna do it with that team. But anyway, let's keep it going. Atlanta against New York. Speaking of, Atlanta is 1 game over New York. I believe they play again tonight, but Atlanta is doing it right now. That kid Trey is a beast. Then let's talk about the 76ers. 76ers is 1 game over the Wizards. And then you got Memphis got 1 game over the Jazz. And now we got the Suns. The Suns are 1 game over the the Lakers. Because right now they're looking like they faking right now. And now we got Brooklyn 1 game over the Celtics. And you got Dallas 1 game over the Clippers. We got some games tonight. We're going to see how that go. But this is your sports news right here on the RemiX Morning Show. All right, so let's keep it moving and get it back to the crew. You know how they do.
You left out the best stuff again, man.
We got soccer, my bad.
You got the Champions League final coming up this weekend. My man Sadio Mane scored 2 goals to put Liverpool into the top 4. And remember, Sadio Mane is the brother. When they made a joke of him being caught on camera with his busted phone, he responded by saying, I don't have time to get a new phone. I'm giving all my money to my people back in Senegal. So shout out to Sadio Mane, man.
Shout out to him.
Man. In world football, man.
Shout out to him, B. Shout out to
him.
No doubt.
You know what I'm saying? Yo, I got
in my sports.
It's Dominique Williams official basketball.
He said
it's
Wilkins.
It's Wilkins with your Claretta self.
Hey, listen. I thought he said Dominique Williams earlier.
I did.
I was like, he said it so quick. He said it so quick. I'm like, hold on, man. That cat right there.
I didn't do that.
One of the first to sport the box fade back in the day, too, man.
No.
Hey,
hairstyle.
What? Hey, with Dominique, man, we got Busy B, we got Soul Veg, we got all types of black thing.
Al Iverson is like, he was the first one to have braids in the league. I was like, really? Is that on your resume, B? Is that the resume?
But yo, you better not say nothing about AI, man.
Yeah,
what? You can't talk about AI either?
Don't talk about Don't talk about
championships he got. I'm sorry, what was it?
Oh man, I'm out of here. I can't take it.
Oh man.
This dude
run that.
You haven't the Knicks haven't won since what, 73? Anyway.
That's because they hate the Knicks, B. They hate the Knicks. The league hates them. They stole from Patrick Ewing. You know that.
Kalanji, let's get to African Liberation Day, man, before this dude is.
Yeah, man, this dude right here, man. He totally out of order. So I think that I'm confused, and we're in Atlanta too, man. I like this cat right here, man. He ain't gonna be able to go outside. I mean, Dominique gonna dunk him, and I'm gonna be like, man, where Kamau at? You know what I mean? It's gonna be a problem. And he called him
Dominique too busy trying to get into the restaurant. So he ain't gonna worry about that.
Whoa.
Well, look, I didn't know I didn't know the doctors were going to be in live this morning. So this is a nice little added surprise for African Liberation Day. So I think we should go ahead and get to Dr. CBS and Layla Brown on this segment for African Liberation Day. Let's go. RemiX Morning Show.
Come back with it.
So Mwalimu, thank you so much for being here. We look very, very much forward to speaking to you. So to start, how did African Liberation Day come to be historically and why? And what is the connection to its predecessor, African Freedom Day, and how has it changed over time?
Well, African Liberation Day comes out of the fact that you had a Pan-Africanist that came to power March 6, 1957. And 1 year later, he brought together all the, at that time, independent African states. And as a part of that conference and meeting, they proclaimed April 15th, Africa Freedom Day.
Oh my gosh. Okay. What up, y'all? Sorry about that. I am Dr. CBS here with my girl, Dr. Layla Brown, on this Good Tuesday, African Liberation Day. And welcome to the Talk Black section, where we talk black about all things. We talk back about all things black.
Obviously, we're a little discombobulated this morning. This is our first time, doing a live intro with the pre-recorded segment. So we'll get into it, folks. Today we are going to talk about the history and significance of African Liberation Day and how auspiciously we are able to do this on the actual anniversary of African Liberation Day, which originated as Africa Freedom Day, but on May 25th, 1963, the name was changed to African Liberation Day, which our guest, Walimu Keita, we'll talk a little bit more about in the interview. But before we get to that, obviously it's time for Plan of the Day. So I don't know how many of you all know, but I spent all of 2020 in South Africa on a fellowship. And one of my favorite plants was this bird of paradise. It's kind of big, so you see, and I also like to name my plants. I don't think I've been giving you all the names of my plants, but this plant's name is Lebohan, which means thank you or thankful or grateful. But this is one of the plants that is native to South Africa, and I'm very excited because you see a little bud growing. Springtime is lit out here. But yes, this is a bird of paradise. There are different versions, but when it actually blooms, it has like a crane-looking flower, sorry. But yeah, so that's today's Plan of the Day. And so our guest today is Walimu Keita, who is one of the co-founding members of the All African People's Revolutionary Party, GC. A little bit about the history of which he will speak about the interview. So now we're going to turn it over to the pre-recorded interview because he was not able to join us live this morning.
So Mwalimu, thank you so much for being here. We look very, very much forward to speaking to you. So to start, how did African Liberation Day come to be historically and why? And what is the connection to its predecessor, African Freedom Day, and how has it changed over time?
Well, African Liberation Day comes out of the fact that you had a Pan-Africanist that came to power March 6, 1957. And 1 year later, he brought together all the, at that time, independent African states. And as a part of that conference and meeting, they proclaimed April 15th, Africa Freedom Day. But due to the fact that the African Revolution or the struggle for Africa, as it progressed, particularly in areas that were settler colonized, Mozambique, Angola, South Africa, Guinea-Bissau, etc., the question of guns came into play. And in 1963, with the founding of the Organization of African Unity, African Freedom Day was renamed or proclaimed as African Liberation Day. And it was created to mark the onward progress of the struggle for the independence of African countries.
Mm-hmm. So of course, you're referring to Kwame Nkrumah and Ghanaian independence.
That is correct.
Okay.
And so Walimu, we've known each other. You've known me since before I was born. A longtime comrade, family friend, and we're both members of the All African People's Revolutionary Party, GC. And so I wanted to ask you to talk a little bit more about the political objectives of Pan-Africanism, particularly in this moment as it seems to kind of have a resurgence in popular culture. And there are a lot of different questionable definitions of what Pan-Africanism is. So if you could speak a little bit to what it is, and maybe also to some of Kwame Ture's impacts on the way we, as the AAPRPGC, observe the day, why we wear white, and what's important about the struggle to institutionalize the observation of African Liberation Day.
All right, well, African Liberation Day, from the perspective or from the experience of the AAPRGC, it is for the building of our party. And again, the AAPRPGC, our membership, the founding members are formerly members of the AAPRP under leadership of Kwame and other members of the Central Committee. But again, it was for building the party. Even in those days, there were other elements, like the first African Liberation Day in the US was 1972, but they were organizing the ALD around the question of issues. And what we have done and what becomes clear in the Pan-African movement is that African Liberation Day is about Pan-Africanism, which we correctly define as the total liberation and unification of Africa under scientific socialism. That being said, what we clearly understand is that the problem that we as African people face, not only in Africa, but throughout the African world, is exploitation by capitalism and imperialism. That's the problem. And the solution to that problem, as we understand it, and I think as history has recorded, is that liberation is the only answer to this problem. Now, as Africans who have been dispersed around the world, that means not only that does Africa must be liberated, but also the Africans in the diaspora must also be liberated. But the foundation of that liberation has to be what we all have in common, is that we all come from Africa. And Africa is our homeland, and Africa is our base. And so you have elements, as a lady was suggesting, you have elements out there who now want to claim Pan-Africanism. And they want to claim it for this, they want to claim it for that. We just had one recently that Pan-Africanism was around the question of Colombia or this or that, or this issue or that issue. That is not what Pan-Africanism is about. Pan-Africanism is about the destruction of capitalism and imperialism and all forms of oppression, exploitation. And it's about the liberation and unification of Africa under scientific socialism. That is Pan-Africanism.
Under scientific socialism.
And then my understanding is that as a person who grew up as a child in the party, that the reasons why we wear white is not some kind of like mystical, religious kind of reason. It's more of a demonstration, a show of a material show of solidarity. Am I correct in saying
that? Is correct. In particular, Kwame Ture had the honor of going to Guinea on the President Ahmed Sékou Touré, and also he worked under the he was the secretary for Osachifo Kwame Nkrumah. But in Guinea and in Africa in general, on days of celebration, they wore white. The entire country was in white. And it is like our uniform, so to speak. It is a demonstration, a show of unity that we are on the same page. And that's why we wear white.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, so for many years now, your organization has commemorated ALD and Palestine Day together. So could you talk more about the political impetus of this decision? And then also, are there historical connections to other oppressed allies like the Irish?
Yes, well, again, the AAPRPGC was founded in 2006. There were political differences inside the AAPRP, and so we made the decision to found GC. And actually, we went to Guinea and met with our sister party there, the PRPAG, before the GC was founded. But one of the aspects of our ideology and line we thought that was important was the question of Palestine. And the question not only of Palestine, but the struggle against Zionism. Because Zionism is a powerful movement worldwide. And Zionism also oppresses our people here in the United States and worldwide. And therefore, we think it very important that we highlight Zionism. And in doing so, also highlight the fact that Palestine is a creation of Zionism. And therefore, as an affront to human dignity and an honor, et cetera, we always want to bring the question of Palestine to the forefront. And the beauty of it is that, now the Palestinian people have kind of reorganized themselves and they're back on the front lines fighting. And so now the world is now back in showing some solidarity and support for Palestine. But that's why we made that decision, because Palestine and the question of Zionism has to be a litmus test for all of us who consider ourselves revolutionary.
Absolutely. And can I just add to that question? Because I know some of our other historical allies, I know Sharice mentioned the Irish, and I know there's a particular line, right? Not the Irish writ large, but there's a particular line, and even our connection to the American Indian movement. And so I wanted to maybe ask you to, again, sort of speak a little bit broader to this question of solidarity and who we as the AAPRPGC understand to be our allies outside of the party.
Yeah, and that's very correct. The thing about the Irish that many people don't understand when we talk about colonialism is that the Irish was the first colony of Britain. And so sometimes when people think about colonialism, they think about quote unquote people of color. But imperialism they don't play. They don't care that about your ethnicity or your nationality. If they can make some money off of you, they're gonna do that. And so Ireland was colonized. They were ruthlessly exploited. And we, as the APRPGC, we recognize that any indigenous people of the Americas, the Irish, the Palestinians, our brothers and sisters in West Papua and Australia, the indigenous people in New Zealand, we all suffer the same oppression and exploitation. We're fighting against the same enemy. So it is only natural that we would want to be in harmony and solidarity, work with and support other movements and other peoples who suffer the same oppression. And of course, the APRPGC as a party that is Pan-Africanist, and part of Pan-Africanism is internationalism, is that we want to be in harmony and have solidarity with all the forces of revolution and progress in the world.
So can I ask a follow-up question? So as Pan-Africanists, like how do we struggle through anti-African sentiments that can permeate these efforts as solidarity and allyship?
Actually, I want to add this because I was going to ask something like that. And to also think about what it means, this came up for us this weekend as we were organizing our own ALD, this question about a particular kind of racialized cultural nationalism that we reject as a party, but also that we understand the ways that sort of an anti-Africanness and anti-Blackness exists, right? So to kind of think about what it means to both recognize some of the problematic positions of a particular kind of cultural nationalism, while also holding on to the fact that there is a particular kind of anti-African sentiment globally.
Well, I think what separates us, what separates us is the question of our understanding of class analysis. Because I think, quote unquote, what I would call the cultural nationalists, so to speak, and their analysis
pork chops. Just kidding.
suggests that the problem is the people in general. So they are anti-Arab, period. They don't make no distinction. They're anti-European or anti-white, or however the best that's characterized. Well, our analysis has to be a little bit more sophisticated. So we're not anti-Europe. We're anti-capitalism. Now, we're also anti-Europeans who support capitalism. So, like, for example, in Palestine, these Zionist settlers, those people who move there, they're part of the enemy because they are consciously supporting the military, the government, et cetera, to oppress the Palestinian people. So within that context, yeah, you talk about people, but a revolutionary has to talk about systems. Because we're not fighting a particular group of people, we're fighting a system and the people that support that system. And so what that allows us to do is to differentiate, for example, like a John Brown here in the United States. He's a European. Well, how you gonna be anti-John Brown? Anti-John Brown gave his life fighting to end slavery. And so when you find Europeans or other nationalities that are fighting in harmony with you and supporting you, then you fight with them. And then the ones that don't, you fight against them, but you don't condemn a whole people for the crimes that are committed by the few.
Right. And this is even the case that Sekou Touré made in his, I forget what the year is, you all are better with years than I am, but in his tricontinental speech, when he was speaking of Fidel Castro as more of an African than somebody like Leopold Senghor, right? Because of his own understanding and commitment to the freedom and liberation of African peoples, right? And his commitment to that through both people and material resources. Yeah, so as we conclude, I want to ask one last question. I wanted you, we all know the importance of joining, building, creating organization for our people. And I wanted you to talk a little bit more about why that's important. I wanted you to talk a little bit more about the AAPRPGC as an organization, maybe perhaps make an appeal to join the organization if people are interested, and even to point people in some directions for readings, books, things to watch, to learn more about either the history of African Liberation Day, Pan-Africanism more broadly, or the sort of global anti-imperial, anti-capitalist struggles.
Okay, well, the importance of organization, I think is evident. I'll use this analogy because you have so many Africans that in the United States who want to be African American, they want to be a part of. And the only problem is that America don't want us, And so when you look at what we suffer, with the police brutality, they just blatantly murder them. That's not just U.S., but that doesn't even speak to the Africans in Brazil and Colombia and other parts of the world that we're just massacred. Yeah, we're brutalized, we're massacred. But the bottom line is African people have no power. We have no power. We can't implement one decision collectively, not one, because we're not organized. And so organization, as Kwame used to always say, is the weapon of the oppressed. And as oppressed people, if we have any, and I know we have, any aspiration to be free, we have to be organized as a people. Now, one of the things in 2021 is, for me, is a little difference is any organization won't do. It just won't do. We need revolutionary organization. Revolutionary organization, because we need a revolution. And when we say that term, it may turn people off, but we just need a qualitative change in our lives. We need the ability to feed ourselves, to house ourselves. We need the oil, the gold, the diamonds we need all these things so that we can live freely as a people. And the only way that's going to happen is that the mass of our people, A, are politically educated, and B, that they're in the same organization, speaking with one voice. Absolutely. And that's what we need. Absolutely. And the APRPGC is just one of the parties out in the African world that is trying to fulfill that responsibility, which is to politically educate and organize the mass of our people to the best of our ability. We recognize that our struggle is generational. It's generational. Will I see Pan-Africanism in my lifetime? No. But my responsibility is to leave this world a better place as I leave it than it is when I came in. That's our responsibility. Individuals, we come and we go. Our life is but a speck in the history of our people, but the people are eternal. They live forever. And therefore, as long as we push the struggle forward by organizing, by educating, by pushing our struggle closer to the liberation and unification of Africa and the scientific socialism, then we have done our job. And we're a poor party. I mean, we can't say we have all these resources, we are poor. We are. We're small. We are. But we are committed to the life, to see that to the best of our ability, we can make our contribution towards the liberation of our people. And the thing is, what we see is that the things that we talked about 20, 30 years ago, where we was walking alone, so to speak, like the Lone Ranger, now it's popular. Pan-Africanism's back on the map, And it's a great thing, because what it says is that our people are more conscious today than ever, to the extent that those forces who used to be against Pan-Africanism are now having to give lip service to Pan-Africanism. And that shows the progress of our people.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
You quite well.
All right. All right, y'all. So we know we are a little bit over our allotted 20 minutes, but because Walimo didn't get to recommend readings, Layla and I wanted to just offer up some text. I'll drop some in the chat. So the first is Revolutionary Path by Kwame Nkrumah. This is a selection of a wide range of his writings from 1942 up until 1968-ish. And there's pieces about from African Freedom Day to African Liberation Day. There's pieces about the All African Peoples Conference. There's speeches about, so there, about there was the 1945 Pan-African Congress, his statement there. And so there's all sorts of information that gives background and context to why it is that Pan-African unity is needed, as well as concrete information about the formation of the AAPRP. The second reading is it's a transcript of a speech Walter Rodney gave called "The Meaning of African Liberation Day" in 1972 in San Francisco. And so he provides an even deeper historical context to why African solidarity and African liberation is needed. And so you can see both the speech and the transcripts to that speech that I dropped in the chat. And the third is a piece that dropped last week on Hood Communists called #African Liberation Day, We Unify or We Die, that speaks about the contemporary significance of African Liberation Day and of revolutionary Pan-Africanism. So.
Absolutely. And mine are, I've dropped one of them in the chat already, I believe. So the first I wanted to suggest is actually a book. It's by Sekou Touré, which is called Revolution, Culture, and Pan-Africanism. A lot of Sekou Touré's works, because he was writing in French, obviously, are not well translated. So I also want to make it, if we have any French speakers out there, that is something that we really need in thinking about translating a lot of our important literature. But that book he wrote in 1978, and there are some decent translations out there in the world. For me, particularly as an anthropologist, I'm always interested in the way Sekou Touré and Amilcar Cabral helped us think about the role of culture, and really sort of moved away from a particular brand of demonization of certain strands of culture that sometimes hardline traditional Marxists would put forward. And so I really appreciate the way he articulates that in that particular text. The other, I think I already dropped the link. So we are going into our archives as an organization, and we were able to find our African Liberation Day themes, the theme for every year, except for 2003, for the last 46 years that we have celebrated African Liberation Day. And the what would you call it? The background to the slideshow that presents all the themes is the 1983 ALD speech that Kwame Touré gave about the history and importance of institutionalizing the observation of African Liberation Day. And the last one that I will suggest is also another party document for us, but it is the history and origins of African Liberation Day from the perspective of Kwame Nkrumah. And you'll see a little bit about his connections with Ho Chi Minh there, because he was actually on his way to go visit Ho Chi Minh when he was thinking about institutionalizing it. So those are the three that I'll share. There's always more, and we will try in the future to keep suggesting things to read and watch and listen to. Thanks every day. Thanks everybody for tuning in today. Thanks for struggling with us through our technical difficulties, and join us next week. Same black time, same black place.
What up?
Hey, y'all.
Good segment.
Great segment.
Thank you very much for that.
Happy ALD.
Happy ALD.
I want to say, I'm gonna put Jab on the spot. He always be acting like he don't know me, and I've been seeing this man at ALD since I was a teenager, and he be like, "Ooh, nice to meet you, Layla." We have met every year for about 10 years.
Word to Kwame Ture.
He old.
I don't know. He be acting like he too major now. I see
You
how
do
he
that
do
to me
this.
too. I've been for 20-something years.
Oh my God.
He said, "What's that
Jab's
organization you was in?"
Jab's neuroplasticity is horrible.
Ooh.
So I really believe that he
word.
forgot because
That word.
I'm gonna send him some puzzles and games because his memory is a little bit bad. So for whatever that's worth.
That neuroplacidness. That word.
Plasticity.
Kamau, you got to
Okay.
learn the word before you incorporate it in jokes, though.
You notice I got on,
He done got with all white crew.
My fresh white.
But
Hey, listen, I definitely, I apologize for all that forgetfulness, and I appreciate you continuing to come on back and remind me and everybody else of how important African Liberation Day is. Thank you. Really appreciate that. And an appropriate definition of Pan-Africanism, by the way.
Absolutely. I know somebody in the chat was asking about the wasn't it celebrated in DC? I mean, I was a YPI baby, a Young Pioneers Institute baby. And I remember my entire childhood consisted of marching through the streets of Washington, DC every May. I think my father has not missed an ALD since 73 or 74. He has been to one in person or virtually, and which means I have been to one in person or virtually. And when I was younger, anybody that was in the DC area, you would know we took over the streets of DC with African Liberation Day. So yeah, absolutely. And we have split and gone in different directions. And, different versions of us celebrated in different ways, but we're all observing the same history with the same intentions.
Mm-hmm. I just want to shout out the Black Agenda Review. Tomorrow, we're going to drop the Walter Rodney chat and we give a sort of brief introduction into African Liberation Day and talk about the 1972 moment, which was actually a watershed moment. And then things shifted. But yeah, so look out for that. blackagendareport.com.
Definitely. Cool. Definitely heavy duty. I'm glad to see you all drop it today because I woke up early and I'm like, man, we got to hit ALD hard. So then I saw the video. I'm like, okay, we on point. So that's cool in the game, man. We definitely need more awareness around ALD because of the fact that, folks talk about Juneteenth and they talk about Kwanzaa and all of that. But when you're talking about Pan-Africanism, that's it's of most importance, so definitely
ALD and Black August, I feel like these are the two very important moments in our culture that are under acknowledged, but that have the most revolutionary significance among others. But
we have some major Black August things coming up. Hopefully we can tie it in with Black Power Media. I was a part of the original Black August Organizing Committee over on the West Coast. So we're looking to have OG Shaka, Kamasi, and some of those folks who actually were founders of the Black August Organizing Committee. So definitely.
Hey, but check this out. Black August ALD, BAALD, bald. Perfect transition for me and my man Ear Doctor. It's a bald day.
Segues.
Hey, what would you say? Neuroplasticity.
Segue.
That's a good segue for both of them too. I think they it works with the hair. Anyway.
Hey, yo, I got the all white text late, but I came through.
True that. Okay.
Do it on the
all white with a little bit of yellow. Perfect.
Shout out to my man
Ear Doctor.
Yes, perfect for Ear Doctor. I
got a joke, but I'm gonna leave it alone.
Whatever, man. We're gonna get into the artist spotlight right about here, right about now, y'all. So
thanks again, man. All right.
Thank you.
Salute.
RemiX.
What's good, everybody? This is the Remix Morning Show. I am the Ear Doctor, and we are right here once again to get shine and give a little spotlight to another artist. Like you say, I say all the time, you got something dope, send it in to me, and we can see about if it gets some burn. So I wanted to give a little burn right now to a artist who sent in some music that goes by the name of Sean McGee. DC area based adult contemporary hip hop band called Black History, with their debut album, which is called Or Does It Explode? So they got this song called Naturally. So we're going to rock it out, see how y'all like it. So here we go.
Ooh, this my jam.
I'm this nice with the pen that my rhymes start making people learn the words of songs again. Many of you like, where you been? I never left. I've been waiting for my chance to get in. You look a little thin. I was eating them seeds, they got whacked. I started fasting. I remember as a child, the competition was wild to be the best. You had to swim upstream like the Nile. Those days are past, the playing field is trash. They ain't in it for the love, they in it for the cash. I'm from a different generation that rose from the basement with a little more age and a lot more patience. With sacrifice and skill stand adjacent. Pregnant with passion from the love that we make. Regional dialect can't be mistaken for a pose of possession or for a plain bacon, and it comes so natural. That's why the whole world's after me. But if you think about it practically, it was hard work actually. Maybe I do this here masterfully. Delivered me a line bashfully. Cause I'm an MC's MC. Say boy, I give it all till I'm empty. Word up, word up, word up.
All right, that right there was Black History with their debut album, Or Does It Explode? That was Naturally. So like I said, once again, y'all got something dope, send it in. We see if it gets some burn. Now let's take it back to the Remix Morning Crew. Yo.
Big up DC, man. I love that. Did you hear that pocket in that joint?
You hear that? That's that go-go hip hop. You know, go-go hip hop went all the way back to like Herbie Lovebug when it came to Salt and Pepper, Kid and Play, and all that, bringing that whole hip hop and go-go DC mix. So that was dope.
Shout out to EU. You know what I'm saying?
Yo, word.
Chuck Brown
in the butt. Sexy.
Man, but better than that, honestly, for me, better than that was when Sugar Bear reformed with Juju, the drummer from EU, and EU and the Hip Huggers, Maisha and the Hip Huggers, when they all teamed up. Man, that was because the EU was the commercial, the butt and all that, cool, but that was all the commercial for the movies and Spike Lee. Anyway,
big up to Chuck Brown. How about that?
Absolutely. Rest in peace, Chuck Brown, the Godfather, go. Absolutely. No anyway, but you got to get that. Yeah, anyway, thanks here, Doctor, man.
No doubt. I'm out. I'll catch y'all later.
One love.
Hey, man, speaking of that goodness, man, we had this really great conversation on Sunday, talking about being in the pocket, in the political pocket. These cats, man. So I know we wanted to give the remixers and the mix-a-lots a little taste of what they can get if they become members and check out the whole thing, and if they become patrons at Patreon and can check it out. And then before we release it fully publicly, but anything you all want to say before we run this short excerpt from that discussion?
I just say must see, man. Must see.
Yeah, give them the taste. Give them that taste.
Yeah, education. Let's get it.
All right, let me just pull this up right here. Let's go.
You know, there's one point that I want to make. I think that when people study the history of the Black Panther Party, you need to keep in mind, you have to talk about which era of the Black Panther Party. Black Panther Party came into being in 1966. From 66 to 71, I would consider that a revolutionary organization. Mm-hmm. After the killing started, we didn't touch on that. With the West Coast coming to New York and murdering people out there, we decided that we were going to take the fight to them. Fuck dealing with each other. That's when the Black Liberation Army really went into full gear. The propaganda states that we were outlaws, we were not known by the community did not support us. That's bullshit. All you had to do after the action happened the night before is go into any local bar, barbershop, hair salon, and the black people in those places was ranting and raving about those brothers and sisters the night before how they took the fight to the enemy. They say we was not part of the black community. We are the black community. Where do you think we came from? You understand? We had no problems taking that fight to them because under the conditions that we were living under, especially in New York, with them killing kids, throwing motherfuckers off the rooftop. We said we cannot go on any longer like that. We cannot tolerate shit like that, just as some of what's going on today. And people stepped up to the plate and started dealing with them. And then I want to say this shit, it's not egotistical.
Oh man, this stinks internet.
When you took the fight to them,
No, I put it.
when you took the fight to them, you found out they actually was cowards. They were actually cowards. When them gun battles went down, they wasn't performing like they said they was performing. You understand? But that's another story. But you know, I think that the history of the party has to be understood in terms. It was people in Black Panther Party who came in certain periods in time. If you talk to a lot of people, they don't even know what we're talking about. They don't know that period from 66 up to 70, 71. They talking about 1981. So it depends on who you're talking to. To get the true history of the Black Panther Party, it must be told in sections. When the party was active, when it was functioning, when it became inactive, you know, because like I've spoken to Panthers and you seem like we were out of two different organizations. So I think that's imperative that you understand the history. When people tell you they were in the Black Panther Party, what period in time are you talking about? We don't know anything. We had liberation schools in New York, in Harlem, and elsewhere, but that was our main focus. We had sickle cell anemia clinics. We had doctors coming in from NYU Medical School and Columbia that was treating people on Wednesday nights. They would turn the office into a clinic, put sheets up, and they did their work, you know. But I think, and what it bothers me, you know, that they're part of the party and breaking it down into periods in time that you were in the party. Because for us in New York, the party only lasted for about 3 years, from 68 to 70 or 71. Then the BLA took over. There was no Black Panther Party chapter really functioning in New York City after 71. Bilal was out there in the streets, and contrary to what people may think, police brutality decreased. Once they knew that there was going to be a consequence, that if you go and murder some kids out there, we're going to deal with your ass. If there's going to be wailing in the Black community, we're going to have some wailing in the white or the police officer community. Let them know what pain is really all about, you know? So, you know, I consider myself blessed because I've served with some people, man, some of the baddest motherfuckers that ever stepped out of history. And I was honored to have been there. People, I'm gonna give you one example, I'm gonna be quiet. Listen, Twyman Myers, you need to study his history. He was the same age as Fred Hampton when Fred Hampton died. That brother, you know, I mean, when they murdered him, the EMS had to pry that 9mm out of his hands. You understand? I mean, that's how much commitment that he had. But anyway, if he doesn't.
Well, Blood, I don't want you to stop. In fact, I'd like to hear a little bit more, to the extent you all find possible in this very public setting, to talk about the transition from the Panthers to the BLA. How did that happen? What was that like? And what of those stories, Blood, that you're talking about that we don't hear, can you share a little bit more of that you feel, comfortable and appropriate in this space to share?
Can I add one question too?
Sure.
So one of the things that people who try to study the BLA talk about, and again, this is whatever y'all can discuss, is the structure. So a lot of folks hear that the structure was not a quote unquote top down structure, but a cell structure where folks they were given general descriptions of what was supposed to happen, and then they carried out actions as they thought that they were sort of supposed to do as related to those descriptions. So as y'all talk about the development, could you also talk about, as you can, like how did structure work for the unit?
Let me say this from my involvement. There was a brother out of Jamaica, Queens, named John Thomas. He took about 17 kids to Atlanta, Georgia. They rented a farmhouse. In that farmhouse, they trained for months. People became better shooters. Their shit became structured and scientific. Like any young people, once you teach them how to shoot, and they're good on them targets, they get anxious. They want to make moves now. And some people made some moves in Atlanta. It caused a big disruption. People had to scatter across the country. But the structure that I function under, we function as cells. We made decisions in those cells. We tried to contain it. We wanted a structure, but we didn't want it tight like that. As it turned out, a bank was being expropriated, and two cells show up at the same motherfucking bank. We had to have it hooked up where we would have some type of information. What the fuck is going on? Because we could have got out there and shoot out ourselves there. But it was things like that with loose structure. You needed some type of structure. In the beginning, it was cool. But then it got outrageous, man. As I said, once you teach young people how to shoot them guns, they want to put it into action. And it wasn't time. And JT was trying to keep a tight rein on that, him being an older brother and have had some experience. And I think he did a good job. Out of all of his other flaws and shortcomings, that brother did a hell of a job, man. Because remember, Sekou and Larry Mack, them people, they were gone. They were in Algeria or Cuba or wherever they were at. And so he was trying to maintain shit to keep it right. Now he had his faults, shortcomings. He had that. But each
let me say something. Can I say something, Blood?
Yo.
1 2 1 2.
That is some powerful stuff. My man said two things. He's like, they're gonna be some wailing in the black community, they're gonna be some wailing in the white, and then he said in the police community. And then when he said that folks were showing up at the same bank to do work, I was like, well, we talk about African liberation and black liberation, and you can't talk about liberation. People may not like it or not, but you can't talk about liberation without talking about the gun, right? And you cannot talk about folks taking action without being brave and serious and dedicated and disciplined to start preparing for action to defend ourselves. And those folks, those brothers, they lived through that. Those brothers and sisters, they lived through that. Some of their comrades were assassinated and killed and again imprisoned. But they've lived that life and they've been able to survive. And we have to do a better job of collecting some of those stories, the ones we can tell publicly, the ones that they can tell publicly, but collecting those stories, putting them out there, letting folks sort of mull over them and understand the real history of even not only the Black Panther Party again. And that was important. What he talked about was the split. And, later on, he talked about the split in terms of the ideological split of the Panthers, not just a East Coast, West Coast split, but an ideological split of the Panthers. He talked about that, but learning that Panther history, learning that BLA history. And then lastly, again, we talked about this a little earlier, but we got to be able to support these sisters and brothers as they turn 60s, 70s, 80s. If they have families, they've done work, they need to support that. Only if you're part of a liberation movement, if you're saying you're for Black power, you're for Black freedom, you love Black people, you can't say all that if you don't support your soldiers. And these folks were our militant soldiers, our freedom fighters. Some of them are alive today and they're not necessarily doing well financially. So we got to do what we can to help support them. We're going to drop that link again in the chat. And again, folks need to spread that around their social media and however they can, so that we can raise as much money as possible to help support them.
My favorite part in that clip was when he was talking about with the gun battles. And he said that, when they got into it, those folks weren't performing like they claimed they were. You understand what I'm saying? We look at the state as these superhuman machines, you know what I mean, that are unstoppable forces. And I often talk to younger brothers and sisters and folks who are to a degree apolitical. And one of the things they always bring up is the fact that, oh man, they have this and they have that or whatever. There's no empire in the history of this planet that has lasted forever. The Roman Empire, the Greek Empire, Germany, so on and so forth. So all things fall apart. So don't get it twisted and just believe that there are no victories here. If there were no victories, we wouldn't be wasting our time. We just go ahead and be in the field or the house or wherever the hell it would be. I also want to point out that definitely support the Patreons. That's always a good thing. Again, that's the fuel that keeps the fire burning.
Kalonji, let me just add real quick. Appreciate Ali Cologne. Thank you very much. That one of the things that for instance, before he died, Zbigniew Brzezinski pointed out that as his daughter, sits and co-hosts a morning show on a popular commercial network to this day, that one of the things that will maintain the United States as an empire longer than other empires is its control over the internet, social media, communicative technologies. And that they fully intend, at least for propaganda, to fill the gap historically that other empires haven't been able to fill militarily or materially, to maintain this empire as long as they can, or whatever the next one will be as long as it can. So again, I think what we're doing here is that much more important. And helping not only collect but preserve those stories and give folks a platform to tell those stories in a comfortable setting. And however, to Kamau's point also, however comfortable we may or may not be with these versions of these histories, I think it's important that we still remember that they happen. It doesn't matter if we're comfortable or not, or we agree or not, or whatever. It's the point is that it happened. And it was meaningful and continues to be meaningful, and as evidenced by the fact that some of their comrades are still locked up or recently released, Sekou himself. So, I mean, anyway, the whole conversation is essential. Yeah. And again, we're not asking you to become members of BPM so that we can pad our pockets, but so that we can do more work like this and support these brothers beyond just giving them an interview. But find ways to support them and their comrades going forward materially as much as possible. So, and to get out and do more work, finding and telling those stories, collecting those stories. So, anyway,
shout out to Issa Mujahid from Bridgeport, Connecticut. You know what I mean? Issa Mujahid is another brother out there that's putting in work. Matter of fact,
so that makes 4, Kamau. That's
I think he counted one extra. One died a couple of months ago, so there's like 3 left. Yeah.
Was that Bridgeport? Hey,
Bridgeport, man. Yeah, that's a Bridgeport.
So don't worry about it. They if they don't come with me, I'll give them a doctor.
No, we appreciate you, Issa, man.
But definitely Issa Mujahid out there putting in work in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Matter of fact, we had a culture shop in Bridgeport, and he now occupies the same space where we had our cultural shop, our bookstore, and our hemp shop. He actually is in that particular same location right now. So shout out to my man Issa out there who's putting in that work. I wanted to mention as well, Kamau talked about political prisoners. He said many of them are going on 60, 70, and 80. I want to shout out Sundiata Kohli, who is 84 and is a political prisoner. 84 years old. I just want to say, you know, I've been kind of calm on my cursing, but how the fuck do you hold an 84-year-old man and he has to still fight for his freedom? That is insane, man. This justice system is totally rotten and wretched, but that's how it goes.
Yeah. And what again also was that because they are at this age now, we remember these histories are now 50 years old, right? These cats were in their 20s. These women and men were in their 20s when they were doing this kind of work again, and in the community, putting together structure and organization. These were like folks who they got politicized, and then they started doing that work, right? They tried to figure out how to get that work done. And so that, you know, all mistakes, whatever was made, but also remember that these were young folks who were living and dying for their community. And a lot of, you know, and again, there's always positives and negatives. But again, a lot of these folks, like people like Daruba, some of these were street cats, right? These were not folks who you know, when they got politicized, obviously they started reading and so forth. But these were like, you know, folks that people considered a lumpen, right? And sometimes we overly romanticize what folks on the street, what we could do and what they're going to do. But also remember that there's an element of folks on the street who understand it, that they shoot, and sometimes they shoot in each other. But they also understand that at some point, if they are led in the right direction, they come to consciousness or they start reading, that they're going to stop shooting at each other, right? And so we got to continually work with those folks, and those folks will continually learn their own lessons about why it is our communities are the way they are, why those streets are the way they are. They're not because we ain't smart. They're not because we don't pull our pants up, you know, all that kind of BS that now it sort of dominates. We gets us to the idea that, you know, we're not going to necessarily be free until we act right. Right. It's not about acting right. It's about the conditions and the oppression. And those young people in that day, when they started learning about what those conditions were and that oppression was, they started saying, we're going to organize and we're not going to be turning our guns on each other, but we're going to train and we're going to start turning them guns on somebody else. And so that, you know, that's like the blessed part of like some of the work that these folks captured and did, that, again, we got to just like come out and support.
I'm glad you pointed it out about being a part of the street organizations, because Daruba was one of the leaders of the largest street organization in New York. He was known as Torch before he was Daruba Ben Wahad. So, you know, and then you have Bunchy Carter, who's the leader of the Slausons out in LA. You know what I mean? So, it's not just, you know, flip flops and vegan lollipops. You know what I mean? You got cats that are go-getters that put in work. So don't get it twisted and think that because someone is on the side of what's right, that it's always been that way. It's like the rappers say, only been a good nigga for a minute though. Anyway, we're gonna bring we got this wrap up we're gonna do. Hopefully we can bring our soul sister Dr. CBS back to the plate to tell us about what's going on. It's not happening.
I'm not thinking that that's happening. I'm not sure, but anyway, look, anyway, now I appreciate all that you were just saying, and that history is certainly important. Anyway, so look, we had a great morning, another great show, our Monday, Tuesday morning for the remixers and the mix-a-lots. We covered a number of important issues, African Liberation Day, not the least of which, including just a number of things. Rashida Jones taking over at MSNBC. We talked about the new podcast, Oligopoly.
Just as important as the BLA, her work. Rashida Jones' work.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm saying, and watch what happens now that she's there at MSNBC.
I think she's going to do a Black Liberation Day special.
I'm
prime
saying
time Thursday nights.
They might be doing it right now.
I know.
Like we might find out later.
A free Asada campaign, I heard. At MSNBC.
I'm saying,
bring her back. You know what I'm saying? Drop all.
You don't know. This is
all that's within the realm of possibility.
That's why we get there, so we can push them left, like Biden.
Exactly.
Rashida Jones, Jim Jones. I'm not trying to keep up with the Joneses. Anyway,
we talked about the branding of buying power. That was slick. Buying power branding. Amazon buying MGM. Bernie and my man, I forgot to mention Mark Ruffalo was another one. He can Hulk it up in the movie, but he can't stand strong in the criticism of Israel, apparently. Mm-hmm. So he backtracked. he unhulked himself and went back to David Banner.
Not Mark Ruffalo.
That radical actor. You don't know?
I expect so much out of him.
You know what I'm saying?
Mark Ruffalo.
And then we talked a little about the greatest basketball legend ever,
Dominique Wilkins, not Williams, brother.
Wilkins.
Oh my God!
Right here.
Dominique wanted to be Jordan, something like that.
Man, look at man. Look at
who
this
couldn't
cat
get into the restaurant and cried black racism, racism.
As many
until he gets into the restaurant, then he's good again.
As many New York Knicks dreams as Jordan ruined. You over here defending it. You over here bigging him up. I don't understand.
You gotta respect the rings, son. You gotta respect the rings. At least.
Hey, listen, man. Shout out to Charles Smith from the Knicks, from Bridgeport, Connecticut, baby.
Somebody.
That's the only Nick I'm rocking with. How about that? Matter of fact, who would have a name? Who would get down a team called the Knickerbockers? Get up out of here with that. Yin yang.
What's the Connecticut team name? What's the Bridgeport team? Oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
UConn, punk.
UConn. Oh, my bad.
We'll need a pro team.
We don't need of course not. Why would you need that?
Nah, we the stick up kids.
Isn't that why Calhoun retired? Because they paid their players so much up there that they don't need that is their pro team. Wasn't that why he stepped down back in the day? That's what I thought. I didn't know. That's what he thought it was their pro team. He was paying them up. It was like, and then let me retire before I get in trouble.
Man, shout out to all the players on the Ruckers. The Ruckers is the only true basketball in New York. You know what I'm saying? Kamau's never been out in the street ball games because of the fact that he couldn't come outside. Anyway, keep watching your Knicks.
We also, by the way, just real quick, we were just talking about it, but we also aired that brilliant clip with Thomas Blood McCreary talking about the BLA. There's so much more in terms of gems in there, so please do become a member and check that out. And as for me, I just thank everybody again. Thanks to Dr. CBS and Layla Brown. Thanks to my colleagues and comrades here. Thanks to all the remixers and mix-a-lots.
No doubt, no doubt. Hey, Al Unique, watch your mouth, man.
I missed something.
Watch your mouth, Al Unique.
Tell the truth, Al. So keep speaking that truth on them. They can't handle the truth in Bridgeport.
The Celtics.
Oh, wait a minute. I didn't know that was the truth he was speaking. Let me back off. Al Unique. Can we mute him? Can we mute that? Mute Al.
Anyway, man.
Yeah. RemiX morning show, yo.
Appreciate y'all. Remixes. See y'all tomorrow. You know
Boom Bap Breakfast.
Boom.
Black Owl. Brrr. I just said the Ruckers.